You know, when there's more than one Jew in the room, there'll be food. And there should be food. There should be food. And there will be food.
Yes, we're going to keep it quite simple. Something that we can do quite quickly and chop a salad for you. But I'll start with introducing ourselves a bit. I'm Sarit, he's Itamar. We moved here about 11 years ago. We're both born in Israel, grew up in Israel, and kind of met each other a bit by mistake in a restaurant kitchen and talked a lot about food, read a lot of cookbooks and said, oh, we want to go to Europe. We want to cook everything that we don't get in Israel. We want to try all this European food. We want to experiment. We want to make reductions. We want to make fancy desserts and everything fly. And we wanted to kind of taste all this different food. And we landed here. Like I say, 11 years ago, we started eating everywhere. We ate Indian food, Thai food, Vietnamese food, Chinese food, Japanese food, and most of all kind of European, classic, French. And it was a kind of exciting time. We were trying everything and getting excited by the variety because we came at a time food wasn't so big, restaurant food wasn't so big in Israel. Now it's quite a massive growing market. And we kind of said, yeah, let's go fancy restaurants, fine dining will work that way. But at home we would cook this food and we would kind of remember home and we would say we would really want to taste something that reminds us of growing up, reminds us of the vegetables, and there's nothing like a chopped salad for that.
And actually, this, you know, growing up in Israel, you don't really think about chopped salad. It's just like there, it's just on the table at every meal, at breakfast, at lunch, and dinner. It's just like salt and pepper, isn't it? It's just like
it's a condiment.
Yeah. And you never really think about it. You're never very conscious of it. It's just, you know, one of those things. And I started cooking in Tel Aviv, and I started cooking in a fancy cafe, and we'd be cooking European food, and we'd be making, you know, quiche for lunch and ossobuco for dinner, and we'd be making, you know, croissants and brioche for breakfast. And I think most chefs in Tel Aviv that time were looking west, and were looking to Europe, and that was what food should be. And, you know, there's great traditions there, of course. And I remember waking up one morning when I was working in Tel Aviv, and I had a very strong craving. And what I wanted for breakfast was fried eggs and some bread and some sour cream and chopped salad with loads of chilies. And when you work in a kitchen, one of the perks of the job, there aren't many, is that when you wake up with a crave, you can actually make it. So I got into work, and you know, I made myself. I was chopping the salad, and I was cooking the egg on the griddle, and everything was ready in a minute. And then I made me a nice plate, and I said I'm going to eat it. And then one of my chefs was like, "Actually, I'm going to eat that." And I had to make, you know, more salad and more eggs, and I made a big breakfast for everyone. And we all sat down and ate, and we enjoyed it so much it became sort of a tradition in that kitchen. And that was maybe the first time that I thought that maybe the food that we brought from home and the food that was always around us is actually awesome, and it's actually great, and we don't need to look west because we have some pretty terrific things right here. And this was sort of a first step in the journey that ended up in our own restaurant now that is serving exactly this type of food. This story in the restaurant didn't end well, because we liked it so much, we decided to put it on the menu for breakfast. And then all we did all morning was chopping salads to order. And that was a total nightmare, but it did teach me how to make nice chopped salad.
It's happened again, though, because we kind of thought, oh, we'll just open a bit of Middle Eastern food. We'll cook the food we cooked at home. We'll cook the food that we kind of ate at friends' houses, and we'll just the two of us cook. We'll open a little restaurant. You know, we'll cook in the, I'll make some bake some cakes, Itamar will chop some salads, we'll serve them, and it's kind of become a bit of a monster. Which is, you know, there's good things about it. Yes, it may long continue to be a little monster. So in our restaurant, the main kind of thing that we base everything that we do is on ingredients. And I think when we moved here and we tried to kind of recreate this chopped salad at home, the hardest thing we found was finding ingredients that we could work with that would taste the same. And this is something that we've worked hard on finding in the UK to, you know, it's a simple kind of thing, you know, but a cucumber that is small, that is crisp, that is super sweet when you eat it without any bitterness, without hardly any seeds inside, and the seeds that are there are really crunchy rather than these kind of big supermarket cucumbers that they have no flavor and you don't want to work with them. So
this was so strange to us when we came. We said, what is this vegetable? It can't be a cucumber.
It's true. So start with cucumbers always. And when they're this good and this crispy, you don't need to peel them or anything like that. It's all about just finding a good grocer that does it. And actually, I think the kind of exciting thing about being here 11 years is seeing how we can start to source these things that we really want to eat. And I've got a knife. No.
You've got my knife. Do you want my knife?
I like this knife better. So we've kind of found a few suppliers, a few Turkish delis, a few Middle Eastern delis, and people that bring in this produce that we want. And it's really worth seeking them out because the difference in flavor is huge. So don't peel, just trim off the edges. You don't have to do them 4 at a time if you don't want to. Then down the middle and again. And it's all, we don't usually chop on something so low down.
Yeah, I think it's too big actually.
It's not too big.
I would go 3 across and 3 lengthwise.
No, these are tiny cucumbers, and I'll throw them everywhere. Anyway. Cucumbers are the first thing to go in.
Yeah, and you could say, get good cucumbers, you're halfway there, because the other half is good tomatoes, which is so important, just to life generally, but also, you know, for this dish, because there's only, you know, there's nothing to it. And if it doesn't taste nice, if it's, you know, the sort of styrofoam tasting tomatoes that are so often blighted with supermarkets in this country. But you can get nice tomatoes these days.
Or grow your own.
You can grow your own. You can get good ones. They cost a fortune, but they're worth it, I think, aren't they? This is one of life's little luxuries. So the thing with the tomatoes and with chopped salad is never use a serrated knife. I think a lot of people would use a little serrated vegetable knife.
I would use a little serrated vegetable knife.
You know, I'll just say that she doesn't make the salads at home or at the restaurant, so you will get good salad. You need a chef's knife because the serrated knife bruises your vegetables, so you need a really, really sharp, really good chef's knife. And you can use, you know, you can use really, really the really ripe tomatoes that will go a little bit to mush. You know, that's kind of nice in a salad, isn't it? Because that's going to go in the dressing and will be quite nice. But if you get firmer ones that will stay crunchy, that's also really nice. So as long as they taste nice, and these do, I think you're home safe.
What about
the
seeds?
Now the seeds, you can leave them. So we just cut them in 3 and then dice them. The real class act is that you're left with just this. And then you can get rid of it. That is, I think, you know, the nice way to chop.
The essence of a classy salad. So the next thing, and this is kind of open to variation, and you can go either way with this, but we favor mint and parsley. You can go for a bit of fresh coriander if you like the flavor. Some people can't stand it. You could go with a bit of rocket if it's really nice and peppery. It works really well. Or, of course, some lettuce. The main kind of thing is what you enjoy eating, but for us, it's always about parsley and mint. It's kind of the basis of...
Forget what she said. It's not about what you enjoy eating. You can use parsley, you can use mint, you can use coriander, none of the other herbs.
Oh.
That's it. Otherwise, it's, you know, what are you doing here? What are you doing?
As you can maybe spot the aspect that we don't agree about anything. But we do agree about what we like eating. So it's just kind of the main thing, isn't it? So the best way to chop parsley is to kind of get all the leaves into one bunch, then roll them up into a little ball. It's a bit noisy, the microphone and the chopping, isn't it? Yeah. And then chop it nice and fine. And the main kind of thing about chopping is don't hack your vegetables. Your knife, again, should be quite nice and sharp. And just nice sliding motions. And you don't bruise your parsley, and it goes really nice, stays really nice and green and fresh. And that's really nice.
So a big bone of contention is this. Do we put onions or do we put garlic? Now, you don't see any garlic here, so you know what I'm going to say. But onions, I think, are so nice. Either way, whatever you choose, never both. It'll be too much. So we always go for onion. I think you don't want to have too much. Just cut it, you know, peel it, cut it in half, and then chop it really as finely as you can, because you don't want big chunks. And if you're worried about, you know, the smell of onion on your breath, this salad is going to have so much lemon juice. and quite a fair bit of salt. And there's acidity from the tomatoes that will mellow the onions right down. And this, I think, will just leave them sweet.
It almost cooks them. So rather than leaving a bad breath on you or being too powerful, it kind of helps you. That's very noisy.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Salman.
All right, so I'm just doing some mint, and the mint you do have to chop off the stem because the stem can be quite bitter. That goes in.
Yeah.
And then the last bone of contention for us is chilies. So green or red doesn't matter. I'm not a massive chili fan, and whereas Itamar would probably use all of this one in a salad, I'm only going to allow him to use a bit of this. And the kind of main thing is to keep it to the flavors you like. Taste the chili. They can be really, really different in spice. So when you open it up, either eat a bit of the tip. Remember, the seeds are much spicier than anything else. So if you're leaving them in, your salad's going to be super spicy. And they say that the kind of, you know, the little membrane, the white membrane, the more yellow it is, it's supposedly the more spicier it is. But I don't know if that's true or not. And then lemon juice is another important thing. And lemons in general are massively important. And the best way to get the most juice is to just roll them on the table. It'll just soften them a bit, help you produce a bit more juice from it. And really, in a salad like this, I think the main kind of thing is actually the dressing that is left in the bowl afterwards. You mop it up with some bread, you pour it on some white rice, and you eat it. You let your eggs, kind of your fried egg or your omelette, soak up all those juices. That's what you want to do with that. So all of that, hold your hand to catch all the juice.
She's the master of seasoning. I don't get involved in this part.
You get involved in the tasting, though, usually.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a tricky area. I think when we were growing up, we never had, you know, our mums would never have olive oil at home. It was always
veg oil.
Sort of vegetable oil. And actually, for us in Jerusalem, not even that. They would just add a little bit of cold water or ice water, and that would be the dressing. But I think now we use olive oil, and it's so full of flavor and luxurious.
Which I can't open
it. I don't know that I can. That'll be an embarrassment.
So olive oil, be generous with salt, enough, not that generous. Like I say, it's all about the sauce at the end. So give it a good mix, the color should be beautiful. You want to eat it really as soon as you can to preparation because that's when it's fresh. And you actually want to probably use more lemon than you think. I'm going to let Itamar taste and see if he wants more lemon. But then I can't put the spoon back, so...
Yeah.
Salt, lemon?
Salt.
Salt. It takes quite a bit of salt, and especially because it's fresh vegetables.
So with the seasoning, it's always more than you think you should.
It is.
A few rules about eating this. Like Sarit said, you always need bread. You always need something to mop it up. You always need to eat it fresh. And what's the third thing? The juice. That's the best bit. Once the salad is finished, you will have a little bit of the dressing left at the bottom, and this will be the bit that we would drink up. And this is it pretty much. This is our chopped salad. This is our little taste of home. And it's great for us to see how in recent years everybody talks about Israeli food, which was not a thing, you know, maybe 5-6 years ago. And it's great for us to look at Israel growing and becoming more confident in its food and not looking west anymore, but looking, you know, sidewise to its neighbors and backwards to its traditions. And, you know, this dish, which is, of course, you know, an Arab dish and a dish of the Middle East, is the national dish of Israel. And we think how great it would be if we can
share more things rather than focus on the things that differ us, but remember that we all enjoy the same flavors, come from the same place, and should be closer for that.